Please do.
Good afternoon. This is our third author presentation in our Kids Going Green series with the Brattleboro Literary Festival. Thanks for coming out. We are pleased to have from Brooklyn, New York, Bruno and Beth Handman. They've just started a new series, Josie and the Fourth Grade Bike Brigade. It's their first chapter book in a series with environmental issues aimed at kids, and we welcome them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Museum, for having us, the Arts Museum. Thank you, Green Writers Press, so much, and Dee Dee Cummings for publishing our book. We're so thrilled to be here and so thrilled that you liked our book. So first we want to, since probably people haven't read the book, except for Dee Dee, and particularly for Sam, who this book is for, we want to say a little bit about what the book is about. So Josie is a fourth grader who takes action on climate change. And she doesn't just do it alone. She organizes her friends, her class, and in fact her whole grade to take action with her. The book starts with her and her brother visiting their grandmother down in Ecuador. But she doesn't live in Ecuador. She lives in Brooklyn, New York, in a neighborhood called Parkside, which is startlingly similar to our neighborhood, Park Slope. And when she organizes her friends, she talks about getting rid of climate change or global warming. Do you have any idea, anybody under the age of 10, have any idea what that means? Do you know what global warming is? Any adult want to give a definition? Before I ask Ken?
Well, it's the changing of the weather as a result of excessive pollutants in the atmosphere and upper atmosphere that are changing it globally.
Exactly. So that's really important to know for this book. And Josie finds that out during the book, but that's what kind of gets her going. So before
I could ask you, have you ever had a fever?
Yeah.
How high? Do you remember?
Not
Do you remember, what's your normal temperature, do you know?
98.6.
Right, 98.6. So if you have a temperature of like 101 or 102, you feel pretty lousy, right? So the Earth's temperature is rising like that, just getting a little bit hotter. So if it goes up 1 degree, it might not be that terrible. If it goes up 2 degrees, the Earth starts feeling sick. If it goes up 3 or 4 degrees, then it could be really bad. You wouldn't even hardly be able to get out of bed or go to school if you had 4 degrees temperature. That would be over 102, almost 103. So that's kind of what global warming is. It's the Earth getting a temperature because of pollution, certain kinds of pollution.
So we want to read a couple of excerpts from our book, but first we want to tell you how we wrote the book and why we wrote the book.
Right. Well, Beth here is a elementary school assistant principal. And as part of, in that school, it's a very large school in Brooklyn with about 1,400 students. I don't know how many students you have in schools around here, but I'm sure it's nowhere near 92 at your school? Ours has, quite a bit more, 1,400. So it's also where our kids went to school, and our daughter, who's the co-author, went K-5. And as part of the school's, well, they started a Go Green Walkathon, where they walked around the park in Brooklyn there and raised money for environmental groups, and they started a Roots and Shoots after school program where they, and well, anyway, the kids got very into it, spontaneously became activists. They started going around to the stores and pestering the owners not to use plastic bags, but to replace them with cloth bags, and they raided their piggy banks to raise money for the Rainforest Action Network and Amazon Watch, because in the third grade, rainforest is part of the curriculum and so on. So the kids were so cute and so sort of spontaneously into it that it was very inspiring. So one night after one of the walkathons, and an especially spirited, lively, and cute walkathon, we were sitting around the kitchen, and Beth said, "The kids are so great, somebody should really write a book about it." I think a lot of us have a little Ralph Cramden in us. We have a lot of ideas. Some of them are terrible. Most of them don't happen. But this was the exception. We actually went ahead and did it. But that was 6 years ago. And think it was interesting that most of the publishers, of course it's difficult to publish books, but some of the editors were really ignorant about climate change. And we even got a note back saying, why didn't you explain the difference between global warming and climate change, which is an ignorant question because they are pretty much the same thing. So, so we are really grateful that after 6 years, once we sent the manuscript to Dee, about a half an hour later, she was like, yes, let's do it.
And here we are.
And so here we are. And I also wanted to say one other thing, because I was listening to your session just before, and it was so, it's interesting. I think the issue of talking about climate change can be threatening, depressing,
Scary.
difficult, scary. You know, how to talk about it is really important. And what we always say about this book is it's not about climate change, it's about taking action on climate change. And the way I feel to deal with it emotionally, whether you're an adult or a kid, is to get in there and take action on it. Then you know you're dealing with it, it's less depressing. When you're engaged, when you're trying, it's less depressing. So it's about taking action, not just individual action, that's it.
And what we're hoping is over the course of this series that Josie can both teach and inspire kids to understand the strategies and the process of taking action. And then whatever project they're interested in, they can bring those skills to it.
Okay, so what are we doing next?
We're reading.
Oh, okay.
We're going to read you 2 little parts.
Where's my copy?
And the first time we did this, we read with our daughter. There are 3 characters in this part. So she was one and I was one and Kenny was one, but Kenny's going to be 2 characters because she's not here. So we're going to start with the very first chapter and read an excerpt from that and then move to the 5th chapter. So chapter 1 is Grandma and the Whale.
And I'm Grandma, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm going to be a police officer.
Yeah.
Okay. Wake up, Josie. Wake up.
Someone was shaking me. I looked at the clock next to my bed. It said 6:02 a.m. For a second, I thought it was a school day back home in Brooklyn and my mom was waking me up. Then I saw my Grandma Carmen, and I remembered that it was summer and I was in Ecuador. Why in the world was she waking me so early? Before I could complain, Grandma was pulling the covers off my big brother Damien, trying to get him up. He was 12 and getting to be a real sleepyhead.
Get up now. The rescue center called on the radio. There's a baby humpback whale stranded on the beach. We need to get it back in the water.
Grandma doesn't usually get so excited. My tiredness vanished. This was a big deal. Now even Damien jumped out of bed, and we practically flew into the car. Grandma was driving fast. Suddenly there were policemen waving us over to the side of the road. An officer approached our car. I thought we were going to get a ticket, but that wasn't the problem.
Lo siento. The road is closed for construction. You'll have to go around.
He was speaking slowly enough for me to understand his Spanish, but you didn't need to understand Spanish to know there was no time to go around the long way. You could see that from Grandma's face. She had told us that a baby whale can't live very long out of the water. Grandma turned the car around and grabbed the phone. Her friend Juana must have been on speed dial because the next thing I knew, Grandma was shouting at her a mile a minute.
Juana, necesito 3 bicicletas ahora mismo. I need 3 bicycles right away. We have to get to the beach by the back road. A baby whale is stranded, probably since last night.
Grandma hung up without even waiting for an answer. She turned the car around and drove to Juana's house. Juana was waiting with 4 bicycles, 3 for us and 1 for her. Without a word, we jumped out of the car and onto the bikes and were pedaling like mad.
So we can't tell you if they rescue the whale or not. But we can tell you that they go back to Brooklyn to start for her to start 4th grade. And then
Josie and Damien go back.
Josie and Damien go back where they live in Brooklyn. She starts 4th grade. And the next chapter is they're starting the first day of school. But now I'm looking for the part I'm supposed to read next, which I...
Now we're going to go to chapter 5, where...
Oh yeah, so what I was going to say, yeah. So they stay in touch with Grandma. That's what I was going to say. Going back, they stay in touch with Grandma through email. And so some of the book has exchanges between Josie and her grandma.
And this is one. Hola, abuelita. We took a field trip and saw polar bears. They weren't as big as the whales, but they were still enormous and beautiful. We also learned about global warming. It's pretty scary. It's already pretty hot in Ecuador. I hope you're not going to melt. Lizzie thinks that one way we can help is by driving less. I was thinking about the whale rescue. When we couldn't drive, we biked. I'm thinking about starting to bike to school every day. What do you think about that? Love you more than 1,000,000 billion infinities times the weight of the biggest whale in the world, Josie. P.S. I learned that climate change and global warming are the same thing.
We wrote that little one for that. Josie, we marine biologists know all about global warming because it makes the ocean warmer too. It happens very slowly, so I won't melt, but it needs to be stopped. Biking to school is a perfect idea. I would love to see the whole world get out of their cars and onto their bikes, just like we did the morning of the whale rescue. Start with you and your friends, and then let's see what happens. Love you more than all the grains of sand on the beach times all the stars in the sky, to Abuelita.
Mom, Dad, where's my bike? I can't be late today. I had told them all about global warming and my plan, so I thought they would know how serious this was. It was the first day of Operation Save the Polar Bears, also known as the 4th grade bike brigades. If cars were causing global warming, then we could help by driving less. My best friend Lizzie and I had figured it all out at the library, and even Grandma agreed it was a good idea. That morning, Lizzie and I met up and rode to school together. All our friends waved and yelled out their windows as they went by in their cars. When we pulled up, lots of kids crowded around asking questions.
Did your parents let you do this? Did you get out of breath? Who won the race?
We told everyone why we were biking, and then I heard the question I had really been hoping for.
Can I ride with you tomorrow?
By the end of the day, most of the class was ready to join the 4th grade bike brigade. But pretty soon, problems started.
And of course, we can't tell you what the problems are or how they get resolved, because that would ruin it. But we also want to tell you that at the end of the book, there's a little section about which we call the Josie Challenge.
Well, there's a website.
There's a website,
that leads you to the Josie Challenge.
JosieGoesGreen.com has the Josie Challenge. And the Josie Challenge is meant to be the place in the community where kids come up with their own ideas for what to do and ask Josie, which is us, but especially our daughter who's running the webpage, about the ideas and looking for suggestions and sharing with each other so that we can create a community of kids who are sharing these thoughts and plans and comparing notes and so on, and organizing their friends. You know, a couple of cool things about the Josie character and the way it's designed is that some kids have felt that, you know, it really is about them. One kid commented, this is the only book where the kids are really in charge. And so it's about them organizing themselves. Not just like what they do in their home, but organizing amongst themselves, amongst their own grade and so on. Bill McKibben's, in his brilliant way of, he's a master writer, but he's also the master of the blurb. What he said about it, he said, these kids are superheroes, not because they ride, but because they organize. Mm-hmm. So that's the idea. And the Josie Challenge is a place online for the kids to get together, share ideas with each other and with us.
And then Antonia, our daughter, will be there to support them, give them ideas, answer questions about climate change or any other environmental issues that they have questions about, and feature some of the work that kids hopefully will do.
Right, we'll choose some of the best ideas and feature them and maybe do a prize or something like that.
So does anybody have any questions?
This little presentation is for kids, so we keep it to 20 minutes.
Yeah, as an educator, I can't talk for an hour.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you mentioned that you're an assistant principal, and you didn't mention what you do.
Right, so I have worked in the environmental movement for a long time. I've actually gotten the opportunity to work with Judy Robinson here and there. And so right now I'm a philanthropic advisor for some foundations that grant to groups working on reducing oil use and stopping dirty oil from coming out of the ground and stuff like that. So I'm the person who brought the kind of strong environmental perspective and organizing perspective. Beth is the educator. And our daughter was the one who sort of kept it real and kept the characters attractive, I think, for littler kids.
So a lot of
Team effort.
campaigns that, if you ever dig into Kenny's history and see him doing crazy things from when he worked with Greenpeace or other places and actions, you will see them appear in future books.
Awesome.
So speaking of future books, do you have the number 2 planned?
Yes, we have 2, 3, and 4 planned.
Well, we do have some ideas, but honestly, if in the course of the Josie Challenge process, some kids come up with better ideas, we're really open.
Yeah.
And we're open to suggestions for themes.
Yes, if you have any, go ahead. We had one kid say, a 5th grader said to me, "Are you going to write one about oil?" I was pretty impressed with that.
The other suggestion was, since we wrote one about biking, we should do one about scooting.
She was about 3. It was really cute.
Well, how's the reception been at the school?
The reception has been marvelous at the school, and unfortunately there's some conflicts with me working for the Department of Education and the school is buying the book. I'm not trying to work on that because the school is trying to do an evening event, because we have our Green and Healthy Night. There's many hundreds of parents came out to our events at Barnes & Noble, and the community, actually the Brooklyn community has been great with articles in the Hartslope papers and transportation alternatives has been particularly wonderful in helping promote the book, and also some of the neighborhood, local blogs.
There was a funny thing that happened in Brooklyn. Well, I mean, as you probably know, Brooklyn has become a rather cool place to live. We're from New York. It didn't seem like that big a deal to us, but so now that Brooklyn's so famous and everything in Paris and Istanbul, wherever, we're trying to make Brooklyn one of the characters in the book to kind of get it like, hey, these are Brooklyn kids, so isn't it extra cool? But one of the funny things that happened is that between the time we wrote the book and the time it came out, there was this big controversy about a bike lane on Prospect Park West, which is like the ritzy part of the neighborhood. And Transportation Alternatives had been spearheading the creation of this bike lane, and there was backlash against it, big controversy. So when the book came out, they assumed that was the inspiration for the book. It was a total coincidence. And we had a hard time convincing them that actually,
We had to show them an earlier draft with the date on it.
They
Did not take this.
So
You took it from us.
it was definitely, life imitating art, because we had definitely drafted it before, but they were very skeptical. They thought we must have been basing it on that controversy.
How's the bike lane going?
It's great.
It's good. The controversy has calmed down, and it's
over.
fantastic. And
They brought it in.
it's well
The
used.
bike lane is there. It's being used. People are living with it. And I don't know what happened to the complainers, but they seem
It
to.
wasn't going away.
Good. I mean, go ahead.
I wanted to share an email because I'm the publisher of this fabulous series. I got an email on Friday that says, "Hi, Ms. Cummings. I'm an after-school service learning teacher at the Title I Community School in Portland, Oregon. Thank you for publishing Josie and the 4th grade bike brigade. I'm completely smitten with it. We would love to introduce Josie to Portland students at Earl Boyles Elementary, where the population is majority bilingual, and I was wondering if we could get some books." So this just came in by email on Friday. So we're excited because Portland is an amazing city for bikers.
Right.
Yes.
My son went to Brattleboro High School and college out here at Lewis and Clark, and I think it's 27% of the commuters.
Wow, that's fantastic.
27%.
That's like almost Copenhagen levels.
Yeah, so we're thrilled to have Josie make it to Portland.
And my favorite thing that's happened this week around Josie is that I heard that a third grade teacher from PS 226 in Brooklyn, who I don't know, is doing a production play of Josie and the Fourth Grade Rice Brigade this spring with her third grade class. So very, very excited about that. It's about the nicest compliment I feel we could ever get.
So, now what do you guys hear? The train. We hear the train. We love the trains. You can take the train right from here all the way to New York City, which I do. And we're trying to encourage transportation alternatives. This is a big supporter of Josie. And in Vermont, we don't have really great bicycle safety here. It's challenging to ride a bike in Vermont. It's very hilly.
And the shoulders aren't that big.
Shoulders are not great. I rode my bike from here all the way to Quebec and back. So I've been riding since I was in college. I led bicycle trips. I took teenagers all the way to Quebec and back. 10 of them. It was challenging to say the least. But here in Brattleboro, I'm on the statewide coalition of the Bicycle Pedestrian Coalition. In Brattleboro alone, we've had 4 people, get killed by cars. So we need to really work together for really good signage and education for the riders and the bicyclists to work together, because it's really a concern. And so Josie's sending such a great message just worldwide. We're very excited. And, Josie will hopefully come out in other languages and besides, the bilingual Spanish, but I know that there's quite a bit of interest in Josie currently at the Frankfurt Book Fair, which is happening, starts
In
tomorrow.
retrospect, we maybe should have made more of the fact that she's from Ecuador and thrown in more Spanish. People seem to really like that, but maybe...
She'll be back there next summer.
Next summer, she'll be back there.
She's going to be there. One of my 5th graders also insisted that we start each book with her in Ecuador. So that really grabbed her.
It sounds like you're doing wonderful environmental stuff at your elementary school. Is that true throughout New York City?
And it is actually more and more throughout. I happen to work at this amazing school. My principal is a leader in so many ways, from the anti-testing movement to the green movement. She's an amazing person and has supported a lot of things that have then been imitated by her admirers. And many, many schools in Brooklyn right now have Green and Healthy Night, Green and Healthy Month, and are starting to do, little and big projects. Our walkathon got a lot of publicity because it's almost 1,500 students and their parents and their teachers all walking Prospect Park together. And we choose 2 or 3 organizations to donate any money they raise to. And because there's so many of us, we end up raising about $20,000, which is a lot of money for an elementary school to send off to organizations. So it is catching on more and more, and a lot of after-school environmental clubs starting that parents are running as well as teachers. It's very exciting.
And like I said at the beginning, the thing that catches my attention is how naturally and easily they take to it. The kids, it's just no-brainer for them. So there's pollution, we have to stop it. They're not, all caught up in all the obstacles and, but if you stop it, somebody lose their job. They're not there. So it's like, come on, let's take some action. Let's do it. Let's keep it simple and straight ahead. And that's really refreshing. That's really great for adults. So, and it needs to be encouraged.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.